All right, good evening. Welcome to the Franchise Time Machine. And what we're going to be doing today is walking you through how to import historic players into a season and then run a clean speed simulation. By that, I mean simulating a year, a season, or multiple seasons in a way that keeps your settings in terms of your lineups, your rosters, the way you want them without the AI changing them and getting to whatever point you set, whether it's a month ahead or the All-Star break or the full season. Because if you don't do these settings right, what'll happen is your AI will add players to your team or send people to your reserve, or you'll have to run away where it keeps interrupting the simulation. You'll have to keep restarting it. And so I've been doing this for a long time, but a couple of nights ago, we figured out a way to address these kind of minor but still impactful things that the AI kept doing to my speed simulations. And now we know how to address those and prevent them from happening. So, overall, here's what you need to do this. And when I say importing players to run a simulation, the example we'll use is a recent simulation we did where we collected all the best rookie season players from across baseball history, brought them to 2023, replaced the Oakland Athletics, and then ran the season to see how they did. So there's five major steps you need to do, and I'll walk you through the details of every one of them. The first is you want to build your roster, identify the players you want to bring into the season you're playing, and also not just who, but the season of their career that you want to bring in. So you're going to want to be specific. You don't want to just bring Mickey Mantle into your simulation. You want to know what season Mickey Mantle you want to bring in. And you want to do this in advance because you need to build a roster file, a text file that you can then feed into OOTP25, and that'll really speed up the importing process. Otherwise, you have to do it one player at a time, which is fine if that's how you want to do it, but it just takes more time. And then if you're going to do the simulation more than once, you'll save that time every single time you do it. So then you'll want to start your season. I recommend doing the roster build first because you can do that in advance. You don't need to have OOTP up at all. And then you can start your season, but you're going to want to set certain things to enable your sim to go well. In our case in particular, the Negro League players were not in the Major League Baseball data set yet. Now that Negro League data is now accepted as Major League data, which was announced last week, I'm assuming OOTP 26 will include Negro League data and Major League Baseball data. Oh, the Nolan Network podcast with rating in. Thank you very much, Nolan. Thank you, thank you. So what we're doing is building on all the stuff we've learned in the past couple weeks on how to import historic players into a season and speed simulate that season. A couple nights ago, in particular, we learned a way to do things a lot better on the simulation side. And I've been doing these kinds of weird simulations for over a decade, and this was new to me. And it went once we figured it out, it went way better than I've ever been able to do it. So I wanted to do an entire episode from start to finish how to do this kind of simulation in a way that's much cleaner than I've been able to do in the past. So we're basically just starting. So I'll just go back to the beginning of this page. Um, but by what I mean by importing players is the example we're using is this all-time great rookie seasons team. Let me show you what that looks like. With the help of chat, we built this roster, 26 player roster, all the positions filled in of the greatest rookie seasons we could find. So Nolan says, you just thought of a challenge team for me, the all-time 21 and under team. Oh, yeah, that would be great. One of the things I noticed is this all-time rookie team, there's a pretty wide range of ages. It was wider than I was expecting. Um, and so when you go 21 and under, that's that's going to be a pretty interesting set of players. Yeah, that would be great. So yeah, so both of those scenarios are good examples of you're going to be wanting to bring players in from across the baseball universe, not across time in particular. And so I recommend building your roster first. And you don't even have to have OOTP up to do this. You can use baseball reference. Um, but what you need to know for your roster for each player is their player ID, and I'll show you how to find that, the year of the season you want to import. So it's not just enough to say you want to bring Mickey Mantle in. You want to know what season Mickey Mantle to bring into your simulation. And so then once you have your roster set, you're going to build a text file. Brent 3213 says, on your fictional games, you have rosters of 30 players per game. Yeah, you can do however many you want. This TXT file, it can be anywhere from one to, I don't know that there's even a limit. Um, but what you can do is you can feed this file into OOTP and not have to type in every single player individually. And you can have all the player IDs, all the individual years, and then what I would recommend is having a destination team. 60 is the limit. Okay. And then once you feed that into the player import screen, it just happens in one transaction. So you build that text file, then you start your season, and I'll give you some recommendations on the settings for that. For us, our team had a few Negro League players in it, and because OOTP25 came out before Major League Baseball made the announcement last week that they're merging Negro League and Major League Baseball statistics, the Negro League stats are not in the Major League Baseball stat set. And so if you want to import Negro League players, you have to check that you're including the full data set, including minor leagues. So then once you start the season, I'll show you how to do the actual import and edit of your players. The edit only comes into play if you run into situations like we did with the Negro League players, where it wasn't, we could find their actual full, I call them full strength profiles in their season. So in particular, Josh Gibson, Baseball Reference says he hit his rookie limits in 1933. But when we pulled in the 1933 Josh Gibson, here I've got that slide here. Okay, the slide on the left, that screenshot on the left, that's the Josh Gibson that imports when you uh, do the mass import. And I confirmed with one of the developers from OOTP in the forums that there's no other way to do the import. But the version of Josh Gibson we want is on the right. This is when I started a 1933 season simulation so I can get into the season data, change the league from major leagues to minor leagues. And you can do this in any season. If you haven't done it, it's actually pretty interesting. You can go to any minor league that's playing in the season you're simulating and go into any team and see all the players. When you do that, this is the Josh Gibson you see, and you can see how much more powerful it is than the one that imports. So according to OOTP, the only way to get this Josh Gibson in the right into 2023 or whatever season you want to play is to go into 1933, use editor, which I'll show you how to do. I took a screenshot of all his player attributes, then come back into 2023, go into the profile of this Josh Gibson on the left, and then manually enter in the attributes that kind of should be there. And then you'll have your full strength Josh Gibson. So in this sim in this all rookie seasons sim that we're going to do as a demonstration, Josh Gibson and Jackie Robinson from 1945 with the Kansas City Monarchs, those are the two players we're going to have to edit because the import just for whatever reason doesn't find the version we want of them. If you don't have players like that, you don't have to edit anything. You just import, and then it'll pull the players from history that you want, and then you'll adjust your settings. There are a few settings you'll want to change to have a better simulation, and then you just run it. So when I talk about building that text file, let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to open my notepad first. I use Notepad. You can use whatever program you want to use that will give you a text file. So let me pull that up and show you. Here we go. Okay. So Josh Gibson happened to be first because I was going by position, catcher, first base, second base. So the player ID is normally the first 5 letters of their last name, the first 2 letters of their first name, and then a numerical code to help distinguish between players that have the same first 7 letters. So an example here is Jackie Robinson, the 5th player down on the list here. Robin, Robin, first 5 letters Robinson, JA for Jackie. Well, someone else previously had that same set of letters, so Jackie Robinson became Robin JA02. The easiest way to find that is in Baseball Reference. When you look a player up in the URL, their player ID will be there. You can also find it in the game and editor, and I'll show you how to find that too. And then OOTP25 is going to be looking for a comma delimited list. So that means player ID, comma, the year that you want to pull from their career, comma, the 3-letter designation of the team you want to put them onto in your destination season. So for us, we were replacing the Oakland Athletics with our franchise time machine team. So we changed the OAK designation to FTM. If we didn't want to go through that change, we could have just put OAK. If you don't put anything here and just have player ID, comma, year, it'll put those players into your free agent pool. And then later, you can also assign them to teams using editor if you don't want to go through the process of like signing them or risk them getting signed by another team. So build your roster, create this text file, put it in a place where you can find it, because once you're in OTP, there's a menu where you're going to enter this in, and I'll show you that menu too. So Nolan asks, is there a space between the commas? You can probably put one in. I put this list in as is, and it worked fine. Right now, I don't have a space between the commas. Okay, so going back to this, that's what building your roster looks like. Identifying the players you want. So in the example Nolan gave, you would find all of your all-time 21 and under players and their the seasons you want in which they were under 21 and had a great year, and build that list. Now, once you have that list ready, you would then go into the game. And so I'll show you my game screen. Okay, so you want to start a new game. We're going to be simulating in 2023. You can do this in any season. I don't do challenge mode because I want to use commissioner mode to be able to change things. And then we're going to go into 2023. So modern times, you can choose any year in any of these menus you want. Initially, I was not checking import complete history up to 2023 because I was trying to run things kind of lean, both in terms of processing and file size. But with this Negro League issue, we weren't sure where that data was being kept, so I started checking import complete history just to cover our bases. And then I've created what I call a pre-launch checklist. So as I'm setting up the season, there's a few things to kind of be careful about. And the first one is just coming up. So I always make sure historical transactions and historical lineups are not checked. The lineup thing probably doesn't matter as much, but the historical transactions do. I did a simulation where I took the 1986 Mets and kept sending them back to replace different Mets teams of the 60s. And if this box is checked, I noticed that during the course of the season, the AI would add players that the 1962 Mets added in real life. And so by the end of the end of the simulation, I had all these actual 1962 Mets on the roster, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted to run a very clean simulation where I'm just playing the 86 Mets. So I leave this unchecked. The import real minor leagues, again, for kind of size and speed, I had this unchecked before, but because of the Negro League issue, I'm now going to be checking this. And this doesn't matter so much if you're doing a one season simulation, but if you're going to do multiple and you want to be able to control expansion, then you would uncheck automatically expand league. This doesn't matter so much in my, oh, sorry, I'm not showing you my game screen. Yeah, so on the left is where the use historical transactions is. Right below it is the import minor leagues, and the right is where I unchecked automatically expand the league. So now we're ready to initiate the creation season. This screen I just leave as is, and now it's the game is generating the season. So I'm going to call this okay. So historic import demo, and this is our all rookie squad. So I'm going to call it historic import demo rookies. I always play in commissioner mode and cannot be fired, just so that I can, just in case something comes up and I need to either force a trade or change something in the game, I can do so. And then I don't want to lose control of the team we're simming, so I set it so that I cannot be fired. And then you can name yourself whatever you want to here, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so at this point, we have done the first two steps. We've built our roster, and we're starting our season. And hopefully you can see how starting season isn't just a matter of just hitting start, but there are these few steps you want to take to make sure you're setting yourself up for a successful simulation. So the next we're going to do once the game engine finishes setting up the 2023 season for us is we're going to go ahead and import our players. And all of this so far were things that I was already doing. So I've been playing OOTP for over a decade and doing lots of simulations where I'm making all kinds of different changes to the players or to the game environment or bringing together players from across history. So this part is not that different from what I've been doing over the years. The next few parts of the checklist, I've learned a lot over the last couple of weeks of streaming some of these simulations, and that's where I think the big improvements have come in how I simulate these. The first one being this mass importation of players. Okay, so what we decided, and I actually think this might have been Nolan's idea, we wanted to replace a team, and it seemed to make sense to replace the Oakland Athletics based on everything going on with them. So we're going to select them. You can choose any team you want to. You can also add a team. The reason I don't add a team when I do these simulations is when the game detects that you've made a change to the structure of the league, you can no longer use the original schedule. And so, for example, when I sent the 86 Mets back to 1962, if I imported the 86 Mets, then deleted the 62 Mets, and let the 86 Mets kind of take their place in the league, the game still detected there had been a change made, and so it wouldn't run the original schedule. And so I didn't want that. Um, I'm not a super purist on things like it has to be exactly like it was, but I like the idea of at least running the original schedule. So I no longer do that method. This is why I started using this text file to just mass import players. Okay, so it's ready to go. And when importing your players, I have a sub checklist of how to import the players. So first thing you want to do is prepare your destination. In this case, we're going to change the Oakland Athletics team settings to become our franchise time machine team, but also clear out their roster to make room for the roster we're going to bring in. Then we're going to go to the free agent page to actually do this transaction. And these steps, I'll bring this checklist back up when we're on that page. It'll make more sense then. If you haven't done a lot of this in the base game, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do. Like, so for example, we're going to change the team name and the designation, but we're also going to change the logo. And if you haven't played with logos, I think it's pretty fun. So the first thing we're going to do is under game, go to game settings. And if you haven't been in here before, these menus can be a little daunting, but you'll start to figure it out pretty quickly. Um, and while we're here, there's a few things from that pre-flight checklist that we're going to also take care of. So here's that checklist again. Right, so historic transactions were already turned off when setting up the league. But we're going to turn off injuries. You don't have to do this. If you want injuries for realism, that's fine. The reason I'm turning them off for these simulations is I only want to bring in a 26-man roster. I don't want to bring in any reserves. But if you want to do that and play with injuries, that's fine. But because I'm not bringing a reserve, I want injuries off. The other thing is, I like seeing if the players from my time machine team make the all-star team. And the default setting for that is that the popularity of players is very important to all-star voting. When you bring in players from a different time into your simulation, their popularity will go to zero. Even if they were, let's say you're in 2023 and we're bringing in like a 2019 Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani, the game will interpret that as a new player and set their popularity to zero. And if they're popular at zero, they won't get all-star consideration. If you turn off the influence of popularity in all-star voting, the all-star voting and selection will be purely based on performance, which is what we want. And then there are a couple of manager settings to help the simulation go smoothly. This is where we learned a ton over the last few days based on little things that were going wrong with our all rookie simulation. And we'll go into more detail on that in a little bit. But while we're here, we're going to make sure injuries are turned off. So that's under players and teams. You'll see the first checkbox is enable injuries. So we don't want injuries in our simulation. Now, you may see this as a drawback. I don't really care about it, but it will also turn off injuries for other teams too. But I just wanted our team at full strength to play against other teams at full strength, so I'm okay with that. And then when you go to league settings, this is the one thing you can select in this menu here that opens up another sub menu of menus. And so this is where you do things like, your league structure, rules, financials, and under options, if you go on the right side, you'll see the section for All-Star Game settings. So we do want to hold the All-Star Game. The thing you want to check is influence of popularity in All-Star vote. We're going to take that from high to none. Okay. So now we're going to go back to our team home screen. Oh, no, wait, sorry. The other thing we have to do is actually change our team name. Now that is under league settings. Now you'll see below this row of additional submenus, there's just a whole list of menus down here where you can do lots of things. You can edit ballparks, you can edit the schedule. What we're going to do is edit the league structure. Now, I did say if you change the structure, it'll change the AI will no longer use the schedule. But if you don't add or subtract a team, it'll still be able to use the current schedule. And we learned that by doing these simulations recently. So we're going to change Oakland to franchise and athletics to time machine. And then our designation from OAK to FTM, franchise time machine. Now, the reason that's important is if you recall, when you go to where's my notepad? When you go to our roster that we're going to import, the the third field, the third common zone field is our destination, which is our team franchise time machine. If we didn't want to change it, we would have just made this OAK instead for all the choices. All right, so now that's done. So now you go to the team home screen, you'll see that our name has changed. This designation should change too. Let me see if. Okay, now I changed it to Arizona just because it's the first team. Now when you go back, you'll see our three-letter designation has changed to FTM franchise time machine. So now it's ready to. Now our text file will find the right destination. Okay, so you don't have to delete your roster, but we don't want anyone other than our all rookie team on this team. So I'm going to go to our roster and delete everybody. So manage team roster. We'll just choose everybody, delete them, choose a reserve roster, and delete them. And this is where if you bring in 30, 40, 50 players, it'll put 26 of them in your active roster and the rest in your reserve. One of the big clues that the AI was messing around with our roster was at the end of the season, instead of just 26 players, we had a full reserve too. So clearly the AI had been doing things. And then when we looked at stats, we noticed that other players who were not on our all rookie team had gotten at bats and innings pitched. So clearly the AI had done something there, and we wanted to undo that. Okay, so our roster is now ready. So if you go back to the how to import sub checklist, we've prepared the destination now. It's got the three-letter designation we want. We've cleared the roster, and so now we're going to actually do the importation. All this player importing, and if you want to create players, all that is initiated on the free agent page. And then there'll be a pull-down menu for actions, import historical players. You want to select this database, historical underscore database. And then we're going to use the upload text file method for importing, but I'll also show you where you can do individual players as well. So here's so we'll go to the free agent page. Okay, and then actions. This is where you can either create players, which I use a lot. One of the sims I do is I put myself and my high school and college baseball or intramural teammates into Major League Baseball, and we'll take over a team and see how we do. Of course, I make us amazingly good, so we always have good seasons. Or you can import historical players. So that's what we're going to do today. And here's where you select the database. Again, it's historical underscore database.odb. And then the top part of this screen is where you can enter in individual player IDs and their year. But what we're going to do is click here to select file. And especially because of our Negro League players, we're going to leave this include players in minor league databases checked. Again, in OOTP26, when Negro League stats are merged with Major League stats, for this simulation or anything using Negro League players, we won't need to check that box. or that's what we expect based on Negro League stats becoming Major League Baseball stats. So here's that file that I showed you previously. And again, um, what's in this file is this list, right? There are 26 entries that look like this in that file. So we're going to import that, select it, and then hit OK. And there it is right there. And now we're going to just import player. It says import player, but if you use a list, it's going to import players, plural. So instead of having to do 26 entries, we did it one time, one click, and it's going to pull in the players. Now, when we didn't have minor league database selected, instead of 26 players, it only pulled in 24. And so right away, we knew we had a problem. And then we did a bunch of digging, experimenting, used the forums, and found out we need to check that minor league box and make sure minor leagues were included when we set up the league. And then when we did this, we were getting our 26 players. So as a double check, you can see here, the historical player import succeeded, 26 players imported. And because we set the destination to the FTM abbreviation, instead of going to this free agent pool, they went straight into our team. And so we'll go into our roster just to double check. Right, and here are all our players. Now, this is where we notice something wrong here, which we're going to correct. Jackie Robinson, his 1945 season, there's no way it's a 1.5 star overall rating season. So we need to edit him. And Josh Gibson, there's no way he's a 1.5 star. And this is that example I showed earlier, where I showed you side by side. The one on the left is actually what was imported. And there's supposedly no way we could import the version on the right using this import function or any import function. The other player, unfortunately, that comes in kind of underpowered like that is Satchel Paige. So, but at least he's not as underpowered relative to his potential as the Josh Gibson or the Jackie Robinson were. But, and we'll be using editor a lot. If you haven't done this in the base game, it's a really great function. This is where you can go behind the scenes of a player and see how they're built and adjust it. And I mentioned earlier, you can find that player ID in the game. This is where you can find them. So it's page SA01. And then there's also historical minors ID. We tried using these when we're trying to get the right Josh Gibson in. It didn't work, but there's an additional historical minors ID here. But the one you want is this historical ID that's also the same as the baseball reference ID. But where you'll be doing the editing is there's a batting ratings page and there's a pitching ratings page. And the ratings go up to 550. This is a change you might have heard of when OOTP25 was released. These ratings used to go to 250. Now they go to 550. But you can see based on these ratings, it gives you a sense of how they would perform in a neutral modern major league environment. 2.63 opponent average, 4.92 ERA. This is decent, but it's not how good Satchel Paige was in 1927, which is when Baseball Reference says he hit his rookie limits. He was much better than this, but unlike for Jackie in 1945 and Josh Gibson in 1933, when I went into 1927 to the Birmingham Black Barons roster, Satchel Paige was not on there. And I checked all the other teams in the Negro Leagues that year, and he was not in there. So they're pulling him from somewhere, but it's pulling in a weakened version, not as weak as a Josh Gibson, but I don't have the data to bring him back up to full strength. I thought about just maybe then replacing him, but I did want him on the team. I'm just leaving his stats in this configuration for now. I'm hoping someday I can find better data, or when the Negro League data is merged with the Major League data in OTP, I'll run this simulation again because I would like to see how he would perform. But at least we can. Oh, sorry, I wasn't showing the game stream. Oh, I keep doing that. Okay, here's the satchel. I'll show you here's the editor page. Here are his historical IDs, and here are his pitching ratings. So this is what I was talking about. With these ratings, he would give up a 263 opponent average and a 4.92 in ERA, which isn't terrible, but not as good as he was in 1927. So we're at the part of the checklist now where we are now at import and edit your players. You may not have to edit, but I'm going to edit Josh Gibson and Jackie Robinson. Fortunately, we don't have the data to update Satchel Paige. So we'll start with Josh Gibson. I went into 1933 and took screenshots of his editor page so I can get his right attributes. So you'll see this right now is the left-hand side of this screen. Right, and that's not the version of him that we want. So I go into editor. Now in this first page, there are some things like injury. Since we have injuries off, I'm not going to update this to match. I'm also not that worried about his height and weight and birth date and things like that. I'm not going to change his pitching ratings. I know a lot of hitters will have some pitching attributes, but in this case, we're not going to worry about it. Even though, especially in the Negro Leagues, a lot of players played both ways. And, if that were important for Josh Gibson, I would probably go ahead and screenshot those too, but we're only going to be using him as a offensive player. Okay, so here are the ratings we're going to pull in. And as I start updating them, you'll see like how different they are from what was imported. And again, the ones I'm going to be typing in are straight from his 1933 profile. Okay, so for example, his BABIP, what's in the game right now is, let me explain to you how this works. The left hand, the first two columns on the left are his current ratings versus lefty versus righty. This third column is his potential. So this is how good he can be during his career. So his actual is set as 131 versus lefties, 131 versus righties. Well, in 1933, this was 512 and 511, which is completely different from what's in here. And his potential instead of 240 was 559. Now, I told you before that the limits went from 250 in OOT24 to 550 in OOTP25. But going beyond the limit, in this case the 559, is something that was allowed in the previous versions of the game and is still allowed now. So this avoid Ks in the import is 74 and 74. In 1936, it should have been 426 and 426. Now you'll see below it the contact number, which is aggregated from BABIP and avoid Ks in a way that I don't think has ever been made clear outside of OOTP. But anyway, those two numbers combine to form the contact number. So you'll see the contact number is about to go up as I increase the avoid K. Right, so the contact just went to 491, and then his potential was 413. So I'm in that same way, I'm just going to go ahead and update the rest of these numbers. You'll see they're all going to be significantly higher than what was imported. And then I/patients, 392 and 475. The hit by pitch rating remained the same, and his triple ratio was 0.136. If there is no triple ratio, the game will calculate triples based on speed. Now you can see what he would do in a modern environment is now much closer to what he did in 1933. These ratings now translate into a 362 average, 419 on base percentage, 678 slugging, and a 1098 OPS. his actual OPS in 1933 was 1186, I think. So we're much closer now to that right profile. And then there are a few other attributes down here that we're going to change to match what was in the game for 1933. So instead of a spray hitter for ground ball, he was a normal hitter. Fly ball tendency was also normal. And then his running speed, 131. Stealing aggressiveness, 85. Stealing ability, 179. Again, this is on a 550 scale. And then I've got to go to a different screenshot to get the bottom of this table. Okay, 119 base running skills, 81 sack bunt, and then 16 bunt for hit. Okay, and then on the right side of this screen are his fielding characteristics. So if you play Perfect Team, you'll recognize these two. So his infield range, 108, outfield range, 110, infield error, 115, outfield error, 119. Okay, interestingly, these are still the same. 76, 1. Oh, no, his catcher ratings were a little bit better. Catcher blocking is 119. Catcher framing is 119. Catcher arm is 119. Okay, and then down here, by playing with editor, you'll get a much better sense too of how the game calculates your fielding ratings. So what it does, for example, for his catcher rating overall, it takes into account this 119 blocking, 119 framing, 119 arm, but then also this experience factor. So in this import, it was set at 200. In the game in 1983, it was set at 200, which is the max. And you'll see that the resulting catcher rating went up as I changed this. So if I go back to 50, this 119, 119, 119 translates to a catcher rating of 27. But when I take his experience up to 200, you'll see that that catcher rating goes up to 110. First base also, his overall rating is a 20 because of his low experience. In 1933, it had his experience at first base set as 160. And then third base is 200, and left field is 200, and right field is 200. 200 basically means he's at max capability based on his raw attributes. The other thing you'll notice is, let's look at outfield, for example. His experience is 200 left and 200 right, and it's the same outfield attributes of range, air, and arm, yet his rating in left field is higher than his rating in right field. So what that reflects is the game assumes that right field is harder to play than left field. So for the same outfielder with the same attributes and the same experience, their left field rating will always be higher than their right field rating. And if we experiment with center field, let's give him maximum experience at center field, you'll see that his rating is now just a 56 in center field, even though all his underlying attributes are the same. And it's because the game is deeming center field to be that much more difficult to play. So that's just something helpful for you if you want to create players or edit them in the game. The same applies for shortstop. Shortstop is considered more difficult than second base or third base. So for the same infield attributes and the same experience, the shortstop rating will always be lower than the others. I mean, I think it's a good simplifying assumption. I don't love it as a broad assumption to apply to every player and every fielder, but I'm sure the trade-off was, simplicity and playability versus rigorous detail, and I think that probably doesn't matter to many people. Okay, so now Josh Gibson, all the important attributes are set. So in our game, he's good to go. And now if we go back to his profile, because scouting is off, it now has updated his rating chart, his graph here, to what we were hoping to get. So Josh Gibson now is at full power based on his 1933 stats. And so we're going to just go do the same thing with Jackie Robinson. I took screenshots of Jackie, and we'll update Jackie. You can see here, look how underpowered he is. They gave him a contact of 20 out of 70. So we're going to fix that right now by going into editor and batting ratings. I need to pull up the screenshots of that offline. So let me do that real quick. All right, so now I'm looking at his player profile editor screen from 1945. So where his BABIP was 122 on the import, in 1945 it should have been 498. And watch the contact numbers go up as I fill in these numbers. His contact was 34 versus lefties, 33 versus righties. So 498, 495, oops, 495 versus righties, 472. So his potential stays the same, which kind of makes sense. 393 avoid K. So now his contact versus lefties is up to 469. 389, 483 checks. Okay, we're going to also fix this gap in power numbers. Now his power is really high, 416, 414. I think he only had 7 home runs that season, but he led the Negro Leagues that year. And so a lot of these ratings like power and gap, they're set based on what did you do relative to the league. And so since he led the league, his power numbers are above 400. Okay, so now in a modern run environment, this Jackie would hit 309, the 368 on base percentage, 507 slugging with an 875 on base percentage, which is much more what we're looking for. And then we'll change normal instead of spray ground ball and spray instead of normal fly ball. These details are less important, but since we have the data, I'm going to update them. Stealing aggressiveness, stealing ability, and then I need to see the rest of the Jackie. Unfortunately, when I took the screenshot, it didn't capture the very last few lines on the left side. So I'm having to pull up a second screenshot to do this. 96, 48, and 13. And then defense 137, 132, 132, 129. Yep. Outfield 3, 9. Oops. 17. And they had shortstop experience as 100. Now, one thing that caused the AI to make changes to the roster, now we're going to prevent that from happening, but it made the changes for what it thought was a good reason, and it's because Jackie wasn't rated at second base in 1945, and neither was Rogers Hornsby, who we added as our second baseman. So we had no one rated at second base, and I think the AI took that to mean, okay, the AI felt like it needed to add a second baseman, which is why it did those weird things. Now, I'm sure Paul Sporer runs into this all the time when he's designing cards, especially for like peak seasons in Perfect Team. Which ratings do you give them? If they only played center field, that as a physical real life player, they probably could have played left and right field as well as, or if not better than they played center field. So do you give them a rating there or not, even if they played 0 games in that position? So in this case, because Jackie played second base later in his career at such a high level, I feel okay giving him at least a 100 here to match what was given to him at shortstop. And you see that gives him a 72 rating at second base. Frankly, I would have been fine taking these up to 150 or even 200, but I'm going to cut it at 100 because that's what they gave him at shortstop for this season. You can make whatever judgments you want to in your league setup. I'm very comfortable doing this with Jackie at second base. All right, so we're going to go back to the roster. Oh, yeah, let's go back to his profile and you'll see, right? He's now got a lot of blue and green here, which is what we would expect from his 1945 season uh, with the Kansas City Monarchs. Okay, so from a team perspective, we're about ready to go. The one thing I don't like is that we still have the A's logo. So we're going to go into under team, there's modified colors and uniforms. And one of the things you can do there is change the logo. So you see here this team logo. This is where it's pulling the logo for the game pages. So we're going to replace this. Now I had previously uploaded everything in OOTP is pulling from files in folders. So if you create a logo for your team, just follow this path: program files, x86, Steam. I use Steam, so if you don't use Steam, it'll be in a different file path. Steam, Steam apps, common, out of the park baseball 25, data, logos, nicknames. And into this folder, I've added a franchise Time Machine logo. And before my next stream, I'm going to replace it with the logo I use now is like this, and it's on a baseball. I think it looks a little cooler. I'm going to replace that. But for now, we'll just run with this. So now when we go back, I hit OK. When we go back to the game screen, you can see now on his hat, Jackie has a franchise Time Machine logo, and the team logo that shows up as you navigate. If you change screens, you'll see now our logo stays up there. And even here on the master navigation menu, you'll see our logo up here. So it's just a fun little thing to, you can play with. The other thing probably worth noting on that screen is if you're into this kind of stuff, you can change the uniforms. And I know people on the forums and Tetsuigi in particular, um, has mastered the art of making cool uniforms. But the things you can do, even just in the basic, are things like change your colors, right? So we can change it from a green to let's give them a white hat, right? And it's got stripes, well, you can change the striping if you want. Right, this more looks like more of a trucker hat look. Um, right, braid. Right, you do whatever you want here. And then same with jersey. You can change the style of the jersey. You can pick whatever you want. And again, if you can change the colors for everything, pants, even socks. So for now, we're just going to mess with the logo, but you can see like how far into this you can go. And as we changed the uniform, it changed his profile picture too. The uniform he has on his profile picture, which is kind of cool. Okay, the last thing on our list to do is we did import and edit our players, is adjust our settings. And by that I mean we want to be able to run this run this simulation without being interrupted. So I don't know if you've tried to do like a fast simulation before, but if you try to go like a month ahead, it'll typically interrupt you with things like trade offers or injury updates, things like that. And the easy way to eliminate those is within manager preferences or manager options, you can check off this do not disturb, which is what I typically did. And what that does is it doesn't stop the game anymore for things like that. But the downside is, if you look at the fine print, it says if you enable this, the AI will handle your team and you will not be interrupted during autoplay. The AI will ignore trade offers but make necessary transactions. And so I think that's what it did with Jackie. It saw no one was rated at second base, so it saw that as a necessary transaction. Like signing free agents or making draft picks. Again, when we bring in these historical teams, I don't want free agents to be signed to this team. It will also set the lineups, depth charts, and pitching staff and handle minor league transactions. This was the big deal. When I brought back the 86 Mets to 1962, I wanted to reflect how the 86 Mets played. I wanted center field to be a platoon between Len Dykstra and Mookie Wilson. I wanted second base to be a platoon between Wally Backman and Tim Tuffle. I wanted George Foster to start in left field. I wanted Rafael Santana to start at shortstop, even though Kevin Mitchell was was in the minors in the reserve roster for much of the season and played shortstop and was a much better hitter. But I wanted the kind of the more realistic version where Rafael Santana started at short, and it wasn't doing those things because I had Do Not Disturb selected. Because when you select Do Not Disturb, it overrides all these settings here on the right, where right now the human manager, right under my name Mochi Mitsushi, the human manager is doing all these things, setting the lineups and depth charts, the pitching staff, and so on. So even though I should be controlling it and the AI should be hands off, because I checked Do Not Disturb because I didn't want the sim to keep stopping, the AI was taking over. But we realized this was happening because we had this guy named Pablo Reyes show up in our end of season stats, and we're like, oh, we don't know this guy. Why is he here? And then we noticed then that Jackie was not on the roster anymore. And similarly, Ryan Boruckis, a pitcher, had been added to our roster. We, I, I had heard his name before, but we had no reason to have him on our team. So the AI was doing those things because this was checked. So instead, we're going to check Do Not Disturb. Well, then the question is, how do you keep from the simulation being interrupted all the time and having to restart it? Well, I don't know if this is a new menu, and it was always here and I never noticed it before. You can actually do all the things that Do Not Disturb does by unchecking all these boxes. So I don't want you to stop when a player's injured. So uncheck. I don't want you to stop when there's a day-to-day injury. Uncheck. I don't want you to stop for IL changes. I don't want you to stop for personal messages. And I do not want you to stop for trade proposals. Now there should be no reasons for the game engine to interrupt the simulation. The only other change I make when I say adjust your settings, and this is part of the pre-flight checklist. So let me pull that back up. Where is checklist? Oh, here it is. So do not disturb. We've done that, but kind of in this different way, is the mailbox. The reason the mailbox is important to me is I want to see our all-star voting results, our all-star selections, and all of our postseason awards. The easiest way I found to do that and to copy and paste the results is through the emails you get for those notifications. So within the mailbox, I subscribe to news from the entire world, but I uncheck everything except major awards and general league news. And in fact, at some point, I should run a test because I don't even think I need general league news checked, but I don't want to risk missing those all-star reports. Okay, so with that, I think everything's ready to go. The only thing we do is we have to set our lineups. Now, in most cases, I just let the AI do it. It tends to set pretty good lineups. For some simulations like the 86 Mets in 1962, I do play with some of the bullpen roles and stuff. I also play with the rotation to make sure it's got the people I want in it. The other thing is in the lineup, and you may have seen this in Perfect Team too. The game engine, the AI just do not like Ichiro. They always seem to kind of undervalue him as a player, and so after I have them fill in the lineup, you'll see that Ichiro is benched. And I want him to play more. So what we'll do is we'll go into the depth chart. Now you can either do it here, VLVR. I prefer to do it here just because I can see if there's any obvious places that I've missed. And I'm going to have it play Ichiro every other day versus righties. And then versus lefties, I'm going to have it play Aaron Judge every other day. And Aaron Judge is also going to DH every other day. The other thing I'm going to do, well, no, let's just leave it at that. I was thinking about adding second base to Rogers Hornsby too, but I think for now we'll just have Jack get there. Okay, so our lineups are set, our pitching staff is set. And then when I do these speed simulations, I like to do it from the standing screen because I think it's fun to watch the numbers change as the simulation goes. So you'll see us here in yellow in the AL West. And then as the simulation goes, you'll see columns on the left and right, which are the league leaders. And your team will be highlighted in yellow. So you can see sometimes our players will pop up in there and start moving up and down. Okay, so with that, I think we're ready to go. So we'll sim a month. Now we're starting in March 29th, so this month will only do a couple of days, but it'll be a good test to see if everything's running. And there's this pre-season processing where it's setting up the season, so it'll take a little bit of time here. All right, so you saw things change a little bit because it took us to April 1st. So we're 1-0, trailing the Mariners, who are unchanged, but they are 2-0. And now we'll do another month, and now we'll see some actual change take place here. And so you'll see we're going the whole month. We're not being interrupted, right? So that was why we wanted Do Not Disturb, but we didn't want all the negative things that come with it. We're able to leave Do Not Disturb off, and we're still not being interrupted because we unchecked all those other boxes. So here are some of our achievements. Our team had a 14-game winning streak. Christy Mathewson had an 8 consecutive strikeout streak. Josh Gibson was Rookie of the Month. Russ Ford was Pitcher of the Month. Josh Gibson. So Josh Gibson was Batter of the Month for Rookie of the Month and Batter of the Month, and then Player of the Week. 1 week was won by Albert Pujols. Josh Gibson had a 7-game RBI streak, as did Aaron Judge. Josh Gibson had a 4-game home run streak. Fernando Valenzuela had a 20 scoreless inning streak. Mike Trout had a 7 consecutive on base streak. Not games, 7 consecutive on base by plate appearances. And then an 8-game extra base hit streak by Josh Gibson. All right, so now we're in May. We'll do another month, and you'll see it's going to run without interruption. And check out the league leaders, right? We've got a bunch here in batting stats. All right, so our team had a 10-game winning streak, and we are at 48-10, 12 and a half games ahead of the Astros. By far the best league in the majors. And now we'll play through to how about announcement of the All-Star games? Okay, so Dick Allen had a 12 consecutive hit streak. That's 12 consecutive at bats of the hit, not games. 12 consecutive hits. Uh, and also a 15 consecutive on base streak. Dwight Gooden had a 14-game win streak, and Albert Pujols had a 9-game run streak. And we are about to enter the All-Star break with an 800 win percentage, 73-18. Let's check our mail because I want to see what the fan voting looked like. So we're in the American League. Here's the AL fan voting. Again, because we turned popularity importance for All-Star voting off, these results should be based purely on performance. So Josh Gibson, leading vote getter at catcher. Albert Pujols second at first base. Jackie Robinson third at second base. Dick Allen second at third base. Uh, our shortstop is not in the top three. Our Mike Trout is second in left field. One change I forgot to make was I wanted to platoon Mike Trout and Fred Lynn at center field, um, but that's fine. And then the real Mike Trout, the real 2023 Mike Trout, is the second in votes in center field. So the All Star game will probably have two Mike Trouts in it, which is kind of fun. Our right fielder Ted Williams did not make the top three in voting, so I'll be curious to see what his stats look like. Rogers Hornsby is second at DH voting, and then our pitching staff, we've got Dwight Gooden leading the votes at starting pitcher and Russ Ford second or fourth. But we don't have any relievers in the top five in the votes. So I'm going to just copy this using this button here in the top right of the mailbox. And I'm just going to paste this into a notepad just to kind of keep track of how our season went. So that was the voting. We're going to look at the rosters. The managers get to select the rest of the team. So we're going to look for, you get an asterisk if you were voted in. So we're looking for additional teammates that were not voted in. So Russ Ford was added as a manager's choice, as was Hideo Nomo. 8-2, 2.85 ERA, 1.02 WHIP, 12.4 strikeouts per nine. Mark Fidrich, he had out of the bullpen, 1-3, 2.09 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, 7.9 strikeouts per nine. If you're not familiar with him, I think he's worth looking up. He was a rookie, a teenage rookie, I think, in 1976. Went 19-9. Was just a super enthusiastic guy, known for his kind of antics on the pitcher's mound. Unfortunately, just like threw out his arm. I think he had something like 23 complete games his rookie season. Just wasn't the same after that. Never built on that 19-9 record, which is why I wanted him on this team. It was a chance for him to kind of, maybe live out some of the career that he didn't get to have in real life. Um, I guess the stats behind that season were not as good as these other pitchers because the AI has never really liked pitching him much, but I'm glad to see that he pitched in the bullpen enough to make the All Star team. That's really cool. Josh Gibson voted in. Rudy York, his backup, selected as his backup for the All Star game. So our team dominating the catching position, I guess. Pujols added as a manager's choice at first base. Dick Allen added as a manager's choice, as was Rogers Hornsby. And Mike Trout added as a manager's choice. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like we have 10 All Stars, which is great. All right, so I'm going to capture this, copy and paste that to the notepad. And let's go ahead and sim to the All Star game and then sim the All Star game. So anytime you sim to a date in this game, one thing you'll notice is it doesn't sim that day. So we're still, even though we're at the All Star date of All Star announcements, which is right before All Star break, the games for this date have not been simulated yet. So we're just going to simulate to the All Star game. All right. So we played another game for some of the teams, and then we're going to go into scores and quick play the All Star game. See what happens. It has Dwight Gooden starting game. Our Dwight Gooden 14-1 with a 1.71 ERA. And despite our efforts, the AL All Stars fall 6-1 to the NL All Stars. Let's look at the box score. I just want to see if any of our players got in or how they performed. I'm sure they got in. So you can see the NL jumped ahead in the third inning and stayed ahead for the rest of the way. Let's see. They had a 5-run third. All right. So is this our Mike Trout? Yeah, you can see in the stat line, it's the franchise time machine Mike Trout. He went 0 for 1. Dick Allen went 1 for 1. Albert Pujols had no line, but he got in the game. Josh Gibson 0 for 2. Rudy York is back up 0 for 1 with a walk. Is this the actual Otani or our Otani? Okay, this is the 2023 actual Otani. Is this our Aaron Judge? No, that's the actual Aaron Judge. Oh, here's our Rogers Hornsby. He went 0 for 1. And then the pitching side, Nomo started. Oh, that's weird because it said Gooden was starting. But if in the box score you see Nomo started. 1 inning and 3 Ks. That's awesome. Struck out the side. Um, Nick Pivetta got the loss, not one of our players. And Dwight Gooden came in to pitch another inning, and he also struck out the side, 3 strikeouts. And Mark Fidrich closed out the game with an inning, gave up 1 hit, no runs. So my goal of one of my goals of letting Mark Fidrich play out some career that he never got to play out did come true. He got to pitch in the All-Star game, and he closed it out despite being on the losing side. All right, so we'll go back to the standings page and we'll sim another month. So part one of the clean simulation goal has been achieved. As you can see, all these month-long simulations are happening without interruption. To check the other side, at the end of the season, we're going to go into the stats and the rosters and make sure the AI didn't add reserves and make sure that no one's showing up in the stats that we didn't add to this team. So Josh Gibson had a 28-game hitting streak. So if you thought Josh Gibson was just about power, he also hits consistently. Hits for high average, high OPS. All right, we are at 89 and 18, 832 win percentage, and we are at August 1st. So let's play through to the roster expansion on September 1st. We did some detective work a couple of streams ago to see when Pablo Reyes was added and how he was added. We couldn't find real specific information in the transaction logs, but based on how many at bats he had and games he had, we highly suspect that. Oh no, I think we were able to find a date he was added. That he was added as part of the roster expansion. So he only had about a month's worth of data, so that fits. All right, we went another as a team 28 game winning streak. Mike Trout had a 14-game run streak, and Jose Fernandez had a 25-game streak without a run. Jose Fernandez, who tragically died young, he was another player like Mark Fidrich that I wanted to bring onto the team because his career was so tragically short. So it's really nice to see him doing well in this simulation. All right, so at the roster expansion date, we are 113 and 21 with we've upped our win percentage now to 843 from 803. And again, we are the only team above 100 wins at this point in the majors. All right, so let's go ahead and sim the rest of the regular season. Now, again, this will go to the regular season end. We'll have to sim one more day to finish out the regular season. And check out all the yellow in the league leaders here. We're leading in the top spots in average, 2 of the top 3 in home runs, the top 3 slots in RBI. Josh Gibson had a 56 game on base, so not a 56 game hitting streak to tie DiMaggio, but an impressive 56 game on base streak. And then Devin Williams had a 15-game shutdown streak. If you are not familiar with Devin Williams' 2020 season, his rookie year, check it out. It's ridiculous. 0.33 ERA and I think a 0.630 whip. Crazy numbers. Like video game numbers. Okay, so with 1 game left in the season, let's just go ahead and finish the day so we get a complete. I do think that when I hit this, it's going to the chew on the game a little bit as it closes out the season. But let's just go ahead and finish. Get to 162 games. Oh, good. It didn't do it. Okay, great. I think maybe when the postseason starts, it'll chew on it for a while. We finish at 136 and 26 for an 840 win percentage. Let me screenshot these final standings. Hold on. Why is it not doing the. Okay, there we go. All right. And then let's see. We're the only team in the majors above 100 wins. And let's go ahead to the playoffs. So we're going to sim. Well, let's change our view. Oh, okay, let's do this. We'll go to the playoffs begin. Now we can change our view. I want to put the tree up. Okay, I don't think we have the tree yet because we're still in regular season mode. So let's just sim one more day. Okay, yeah, here's all the postseason stuff. Josh Gibson won the Triple Crown, and Dwight Gooden won the pitching Triple Crown. That's amazing. We have both the offensive and pitching Triple Crowns. I'm looking forward to seeing those season stats. Mike Trout went 30-30. Of course, Gooden won the ERA crown, the wins crown. Josh Gibson was a home run champ and the batting champ. Josh Gibson went 20-20, which is amazing for a catcher. And we are going to the playoffs. Let me screenshot these two Triple Crown wins. I've never seen that before. And again, these aren't even these players' peak seasons. These are these players' rookie seasons. All right, so now that we're in the playoffs, we should have a playoff tree. There we go. This is the view that I wanted. So we've got Texas and the Yankees in the wild card, in the AL wild card, and the Reds and the Angels in the NL wild card. So let's sim to the next round. Okay, the Yankees won their game to face us in the division series, and the Dodgers won their game to face the Padres. And we will sim the next playoff round. Okay, we swept the Yankees. Tampa Bay beat the Twins 3-2 to face us in the ALCS. The Angels beat the Padres 3-2, and the Cubs beat the Braves 3-2 to face each other in the NLCS. All right, let's go ahead and sim to the next round. We're in the finals. We're in the World Series. Tampa Bay did manage to win a game, but we completed the gentleman's sweep 4-1. The Cubs took down the Dodgers in 7 to face us in the World Series. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do a game by game. We won't do highlights or anything, but I just want to go kind of game by game to. So we'll go to. I like doing for the score screen, and we'll just do a day at a time here. So I do quick play. This is game one is Dwight Gooden against Eduardo Rodriguez, and we win 5-2. Dwight Gooden was 6 innings, 7 hits allowed, 2 earned, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, and only 1 walk. Eduardo Rodriguez pitched well in the loss, 5 innings, 5 hits, three earned, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. And Fred Lynn coming through with a 2-for-4 performance with 2 doubles, an RBI, and 2 runs. All right, so we'll go to game 2. This will be Russ Ford, the Yankees rookie, against Javier Assad. And we win this one 15-3. So the offense really coming through. And Satchel Paige getting a save, which I like seeing. Our home runs came from Roger Hornsby, Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson hit 3 home runs. Albert Pujols, Fred Lynn, and Ted Williams added home runs. 3 home runs. Let me see this box score. That's nice. Riley, this is understating, isn't it? Calling it a 3-hit performance of second baseman Jackie Robinson. He had 3 home runs. Here's Jackie's stat line: 3 for 3, 4 runs, 7 RBI, a walk. Jackie had for his 12 total bases. That's awesome. Please tell me he's player. Oh yeah, we know he was player of the game. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's go back to this screen. I'm going to screenshot this performance here. Okay, so Performance of the day: Jackie went 3 for 3, 3 home runs, 7 RBI, 4 runs, and a walk. Rogers Hornsby 2 for 2 RBI, 3 runs, and a walk. And Russ Ford 6 innings, scattered 4 hits, 3 earned, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts for the win. All right, we're halfway to the championship. I have a travel day, and we're now in Chicago. It'll be Hideo Nomo facing Justin Steele. And we win again 5-3. Nomar going 3 for 3 with a double, triple, and a home run. He got the 3 hardest parts of the cycle. That's awesome. That's worth a screenshot too. Hideo Nomo, 5 innings, three three hits, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts for the win. Steele pitched okay in the loss. 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. Still didn't get a quality start, but all right. Let's go ahead to game 4. Here's our chance to sweep. It'll be Christy Mathewson against Marcus Stroman. Mathewson only 0-1 with a 6 ERA in the postseason. But he comes through and we sweep the Cubs. We won 5-2. Ted Williams had a home run. Let's see, Christy Mathewson, 7 innings, 2 hits, no earned, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. Ted Williams had 3 for 4 with a double, a home run, an RBI, and a run. And then Albert Pujols, 2 for 4 with 2 doubles, an RBI, and 2 runs. And then let's go to the I like this playoff tree screen. Where's our trophy? There's the trophy. There's the trophy. All right, so I got our championship screenshot here. All right, so we're going to go to the start of the offseason. So it's going to do some thinking as it kind of closes out the year. But as soon as that's done, what we're going to do is go into the pitching screen and the hitting screen and make sure no one was added. And then we'll also check the roster to make sure we still have no reserve team. Those will be the 3 things we check to make sure the AI kept its hands off our team during those speed simulations. Because that's the one downside of, well, that's supposed to be the benefit of not checking off the do not disturb screen. So our game score is 1660. I think that's the second highest game score we've had in our since I started streaming them. Okay, so 1660, that's a nice score. We've won it all. All right, so let's go into our pitching staff and make sure no one was here. So this is where we saw, well, to be historically accurate, we went to the batters first. And I think this is where I think it was Nolan noticed some players were added. And this was where we saw Pablo Reyes. So we have no one in here who should be in here. And this is where Ichiro only had like 30 some plate appearances. We see here he got at least a half season in, which is nice. Fortunately, he only hit 290 with a 673 OPS, but at least he got some play, some opportunities and playing time. Aaron Judge also only got about a half season, and he came in with a relatively weak 855 OPS. But you see Josh Gibson here turned in a season for the ages, 50 home runs, 148 RBI, 136 runs, 345 batting average, 397 on base percentage, 697 slugging for a 1098 OPS. And he threw in 22 steals to boot. So that's pretty impressive. We had almost the whole roster of double-digit home runs. And you see Jackie here hit 275, but hit 28 bombs. Let's see, Rogers Hornsby with 45 home runs. Rudy York again. This is the second simulation in a row where Rudy York played about a half season. In this case, 334 plate appearances in 86 games. and hit 35 bombs. Last time, in about the same amount of plate appearances, he hit 34 bombs. So he's done this twice in a row now. And he's a Tiger, so I'm sure Paul Sporer will be happy to hear this. So I'm going to screenshot these stats. The big thing here, though, is players who shouldn't be here. So we've achieved the dual goals of an uninterrupted sim and no shenanigans on the AI. And let's just double check the pitching staff. There's no one on here who shouldn't be on here. Yeah. The one thing I failed to do, which I'll try to remember to do next time, it looks like I left starting pitchers all designated as starting pitchers. I think the only reason that matters is from a fatigue standpoint. Reliever fatigue is calculated than starter fatigue. You'll probably have noticed this if you've been playing Perfect Team. When you put a start in the pen, you want to make sure you put them as a reliever so that their fatigue is correct. So I should have changed that, but it looks like it didn't really matter. Russ Ford from the Yankees, 25-3. Dwight Gooden from the Mets, 25-1. And then rounding out the staff, Christy Mathewson went 20-3. Hideo Nomo 18-3, and Fernando Valenzuela 18-2. Strikeouts, we had Russ Ford and Dwight Gooden both clear 300, and Christy Mathewson right on the brink with 296. The K per 9 numbers are really impressive. Jose Fernandez at 12, Russ Ford at 12.5, Dwight Gooden, I think, leading at 14.9. Oh, no. Devin Williams at 16. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players with double-digit strikeouts per 9 innings. All right, so let me screenshot the pitching stats, and then we'll do postseason awards and the stream. All right, so we'll go to the inbox for our postseason awards. I'm gonna go ahead and clear out all these emails. We can find all the new emails easily, so we'll delete tagged messages. All right, and we will sim to the Great Glove Awards. All right, let's see. Do we have anyone in here? Well, that's surprising. We had no one win a Great Glove Award. Because we have some pretty good fielders in this team, but part of it could be too, the season from which they came and then the run environment in 2023 may not have been conducive to them winning a Great Glove Award. Okay, we'll sim to the next award, which is the Reliever of the Year. And that will go to Felix Bautista of the Orioles. Our Devin Williams came in third, but got no first place votes. Felix Bautista won it unanimously with 30 first place votes. I wonder if part of that is, let me check here. Devin Williams was set as a closer. I wonder if it would have mattered if we set him up as a stopper or anything, but he did rack up 41 saves. I don't see how he could have done better. In 59 innings, 41 saves, 5-2 record, 1.68 ERA, 0.85 WHIP. So yeah, I guess Batista just had a better season. Let me go back and see Let's click on Bautista. 5-4 at 38 saves, 1.15 ERA, 0.73 WHIP, 16.3 strikeouts per 9. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty sick season too. So, yeah, not discounting his season at all. I mean, well deserved reliever of the year award. Okay, so then we'll go to Platinum Stick Awards. We should win a bunch of these. So in this achievements thing, it only shows the first two. Oh, it says 5 times achieved, so it looks like we've got 5. But I'm gonna copy it so I can see who we got. Keep record of who we got. So Josh Gibson, Albert Pujols, that's 2. Dick Allen is 3. Mike Trout is 4. And Rogers Hornsby is 5. Yeah, so we won 5 Silver Slugger Awards, or excuse me, Platinum Stick Awards. And then let's go to Rookie of the Year. Josh Gibson. Well, when you win the Triple Crown as a rookie, I guess that will earn you a Rookie of the Year award. So look at this clean sweep of the Rookie of the Year voting. Josh Gibson with 28 first place votes, Dwight Gooden with 2. That bodes well, I think, for Dwight Gooden's Cy Young chances. Dick Allen tied with Dwight Gooden on points, but no first place votes, so Gooden comes in ahead of him. Rogers Hornsby and Albert Pujols round out the top 5, all from our team. Great job, guys. Great job. Congratulations. Okay, and then we will move ahead to the Manager of the Year. Oh, thank you, thank you. I do appreciate this award. I was quoted as saying, "A manager is only as good as the players he's managing. If I didn't have the talent to work with, making all the right moves wouldn't have helped a bit." And it helps when you have the greatest rookies of all time. So I appreciate the award. And then we will go to the first of the big two Cy Young Award voting. Yep, and we did win it. Dwight Gooden. Oh wait, I forgot to hold on. Let me I've got to copy this Manager of the Year award. Okay. Dwight Gooden won the Cy Young Award. 25-1 record with 33 starts, 316 strikeouts in 190.1 innings, recorded a 1.94 ERA. It is interesting how the run environment does shape the performance, right? Like he pitched well over 200 innings in 1984, his rookie year, but here he's down to 190 innings, which is I think more appropriate for the era. Um, Man, 316 strikeouts in 190 innings. That's awesome. So he unanimous, all 31st place votes. Our team's Russ Ford came in second, and Nomo and Matheson came in fourth and fifth. Or no, fifth and sixth. So yeah, we had four of the top six vote getters in Cy Young Award voting. Let me capture that. And the last big award is the MVP. Now, normally I would check off that pitchers can't win the MVP because they have their own award. I don't think it'll matter. I think it'll be Josh Gibson, but I try to remember to do that because I like to see which batter comes out ahead here. And it is Josh Gibson. So let's go up to that award. It was not unanimous. Our Mike Trout received 2 first place votes, and our Dwight Gooden received 1. But Gibson had 405 vote points. Second place was Mike Trout with 278. And you can see here of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 8 vote getters. Oh, do they show more? Yeah, if we scroll down. And if you just look at the top 10, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 of the top 10 MVP vote getters. So let's grab that. And I think that's it. So I'm going to save this simulation here so we can always go back and, you know, the reason I save it is the last simulation we did, I'm glad I saved because we were able to go back and look at the players that had been added, the Pablo Reyeses and the Ryan Boruckis. And we were able to do a much better post-mortem because we still had access to the saved end of the season. And so that's where we're able to go into things like the player's history and realize that they had been added around the roster expansion time. And we're able to look on the oh yeah, we have to check the reserve. We looked at the reserve and saw that Jackie had been moved to the reserve. So let's look at our roster. Yep, our reserve is nice and clean. Again, because when we went here to our manager options to not interrupt the sim, we didn't have to use do not disturb because we unchecked all these boxes down here. So that then enabled all these things on the right, human control of all these decisions to be in place. And therefore, the AI had no opportunity to mess with our roster, mess with our lineups. So I'm going to call this a highly successful, clean speed simulation. And so if we go back to our goals here, how to import players and run a fast season simulation. Um, I think you can see just 5 steps. There's a bit of detail behind those, but by doing those things, we were able to do a very quick, very clean simulations where everything we wanted in place was kept in place. Our roster, no new additions, no subtractions, our lineups, our pitching rotation, our bullpen assignments. The AI executed those without changing anything. So if you want to do this with your own lineups, now you know how to do it. So have fun with that, and hope to see you next time. Let me try to find someone to raid into who is playing OOTP. Oh, and if you're interested, here are some of the upcoming things that will be simming on the stream. So in the course of building the all-time rookie roster, with a lot of help from people in the chat, we realized that there are a lot of really great second seasons. So there are people we looked up thinking, you know what, I bet this person, they had such a good career, they probably had a great rookie season, or just players who we thought we knew had started pretty hot. But within those, I'm the last one here. Yeah, I don't doubt it, Nolan. I mean, the site says there are 80 people, but I'm assuming a lot of those are bots just looking for drops, which I don't have because I'm not an affiliate. Um, but there were so many good second year players that we're going to do, instead of sophomore slumps, we're going to do a sophomore studs season. Um, I was just going to do this offline, but someone in chat mentioned they would be interested in seeing when I do basically a dry run of can I turn my Low Diamond Phillips team name into an actual theme team. Now that we know how to do this better, I might go back and redo some of these 1986 Mets going back to 1962 or 1960s teams. But the next one up is the 1969 Mets. So we would have a World Championship Mets team replacing a World Champion Mets team, which I think would be interesting. And then we're going to play a couple of games that I like to do in the base game. One is the second version of revisionist history, which is we take a team that didn't win a World Series, or frankly, any team. Like there's a team with 4 20-game losers that I thought it would be fun to do this with. And apply any one of these treatments to it and see how much better we can make them. So we did the Force 4 trades with the 1997 Blue Jays, who won 97 games but lost in the ALDS, I think, to the Orioles. And they did win the World Series after we forced the Braves to give us Greg Maddux. We forced the Expos to trade us Pedro Martinez. And we forced the Astros and Padres to trade us Billy Wagner and Trevor Hoffman after we decided those were the weaknesses of that team. Hey, Gumbercules, you're listening. Well, yeah, I know you had said you might want to do a sim like this, so I hope this helps. Like, we now know how to do this in a very clean way, and it's all with help from you guys in the chat over the last week or so. So, yeah, so Gumbercules, did you do a sim yet? Or is that still upcoming? And then this game I created called Raise the Roof, Raise the Floor. This is where for each player in a roster, so Gabricus said, not yet. We had to go to the city for 2 days. Okay, well, hopefully it was for fun reasons, but you had no laptop. Okay, well, now you have all the information in this VOD, so you can just pull up the replay of this and go to whatever sections you need to help you through each part of the process. But you've been in on all these streams, so I think you probably know this as well as I do. But yeah, we now know how to do a really clean speed simulation. Oh, so raise the roof, raise the floor is where I used to add 100 points of ratings in that editor screen. to each player. I used to allow myself to kind of split it up, but I thought it'd be more fun to just force myself to either raise the roof, which is increase the highest attribute by 100 points, or in this case, 220 points because the scale has changed, or raise their lowest attribute by 220 points. So we can do some interesting stuff like take a Bobby Witt Sr. or a Nolan Ryan and give them like incredible control, or take someone like I don't know, like a Giancarlo Stanton or an Aaron Judge and take their power and like just give them like god power. So I thought that would be a fun one to play. Maybe take like a highly flawed team and kind of transform each of their players. So that's what's upcoming. The other thing is I'm in stealth mode. I've been building a roster, a father-son roster that I'm going to bring into the stream and ask the chat's help to help me make sure I didn't miss anybody. But I'd like to finalize that roster, and then on Father's Day, either the night before or the night of, uh, do a stream where we simulate that. We'll bring all the father-son duos into 2023 and do a simulation. Because I think it's cool that Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. got to play together, and I think they even had base hits on the same in the same game. But they were both so far from their primes. Like imagining all these father-son duos playing together in their primes, I think is super fun. So that's one thing I'll be doing on Father's Day. But as with the rookies team, it'd be great to get chat's input on the roster as we build it. So yeah, so Gumbercules, if you do a sim, good luck. Hope it goes well, and I hope you'll come back to the stream and let us know how it went. I am looking for anyone streaming OOTP, and oh, Nolan, are you streaming again? No, oh, okay. For some reason, it shows up here as you're streaming. Let me do a refresh. You're just chilling. Well, I appreciate you chilling with us. All right, no one is streaming OOTP, so I got to earn this badge yesterday, but I think for the second time I will end up raiding into Alf. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for participating for the chat. I hope this was a helpful stream. And if you haven't done this before or have had problems doing it before, I hope this helps you do historic simulations even better and have more fun. All right. Thanks, everybody. I will be raiding you into Alf. And here we go. See you next time.